Wondering why your child refuses to join a sports team? Well, there's lots of reasons why kids maybe shouldn't be on a sports team. This is our Behavior Decoded series, and we're talking about why your kid won't play a sport. I know we think sports are the answer to everything. They're going to have friends, they're going to get a scholarship. There's all kinds of reasons why we want our kids to be on a sports team. And you know what? Being on a sports team can be amazing. But sometimes there are reasons why kids don't want to be in a sports team. So let's dive into why doesn't my kid want to play a sport, right? Because it can be a challenging thing, right? So sports can actually just be hard for a kid. I know that's part of it, right? That they're learning and they're growing, and but there can be many reasons. So let's go into that. So sometimes it's because of past negative experiences, whether they had an awful coach, the practices were too much, it was the wrong sport, the kids, it was the wrong fit, it was the wrong time of day. There's so many reasons, and then kids can become resistant because they didn't like their other past experience, right? They tried T-ball, whatever it is, and it was a disaster. So then you try to get them to switch into something else, and they've had those negative experiences, and it's hard to counter that. Another big reason is lacking skills. You know what? To the girl who can't catch a ball to this day, sometimes kids lack skills and we think they should be in a sport, right? And maybe it's because the parent wants it more than the kid. That's another big reason, right? So you're a huge football lover and you had this dream of having a son and he was going to play football like you did. Well, guess what? He can't catch a ball either. It's not his jam, right? So they then, you push it, you push it, you push it, and it's not the fit for them. And it can be hard for parents to accept that, and given that in this case they lack the skills, I mean, your child may struggle with playing sports in general. When you're doing team sports, you have to be aware, have a really good self-awareness of where your body is and what you're doing in the game, but you also have to be aware of what everybody else is doing. And so, for our neurodivergent kids, our kids with mental health issues, their nervous system may be too dysregulated at that time, right, to actually do well. And, just an FYI, all the major athletes, all the Olympians, they do neurofeedback because it gets our nervous system so regulated, it gets them so focused that they do way better in sports. And I've had a lot of neurodivergent kids where their parents were like, holy cow, you didn't tell me their sports were going to get a lot better. And I was like, well, that wasn't really why they were here. You were doing it because they're, ADD and they're really impulsive and they're not doing well in school. And they're like, yeah, but now they're doing great at soccer and it's another bonus. I'm like, great. So we have to be aware of our body and where everyone else is in order to be part of a team sport, a group sport. And there are other team sports that don't require that. And you may want to look at that. That's one of my best tips, is that if they're struggling where it's, soccer, football, lacrosse, field hockey, basketball, baseball, maybe another sport where it's still a team, martial arts, swimming, horseback riding, but it's more individual because then they don't have to focus on everybody else. They can focus on themselves. They can do better, right? But still, they still have to have, one of the biggest obstacles is some of our, kids with mental health, neurodivergent, struggle with motor coordination. And so sports require motor coordination. And the belief is that over time with practice, that those skills strengthen. And that is true. But again, does your kid want to actually do the sport, right? And a lot of times parents will come to me like guilt laden, like my kid refuses to do a sport and we're arguing every time. And, I always say, well, when they get there, are they happy? Like, are they happy? Do they seem like they're having fun? Do they complain after? The answer is they're doing really well. They're happy. They're always glad they were there. Then you have to decide, is this something that's really important, right? Because it probably is, right? What can you do to lessen that? Like, is it when you do the homework or when you have the snack or what other techniques could you use to help that? If your kid is equally as miserable while they're there and after, I don't think it's really going to help them, right? Because then all you're doing is creating friction. And again, why are they so dysregulated? Maybe we need to spend that time doing other activities, right? Prioritizing counseling or occupational therapy or PT or speech or neurofeedback, whatever it is. Maybe that's the time to use that instead of this constant, because going to basketball when it's a nightmare is not going to make anything better. I'd rather see you invest your time, energy, monies into healing therapies to help the nervous system regulate. Certainly attention issues always get in the way of sports, right? So sometimes kids have great raw skills, but zero attention, right? So when I talk about having done neurofeedback with so many big, so many athletes and of all different shapes and sizes, including adults, they often say, such a change in their attention is impacting positively their ability to play sports. And especially, as I said, when somebody really has raw talent and the attention connects with that raw talent and the interest is there, then really there's no limits, right? Maybe you can get her scholarship. Most of my kids get scholarships because of academics, just an FYI. So what do we do? So first of all, we have to have activity exploration. And you can't just force your kid into a sport because you think it's a good idea. And it's really not a good idea. They don't have an interest. They don't do well at it. It's stressful. Why are you doing it? You're doing it for yourself because you think it's the right thing, right? So what activities could it be, right? Can it not be a sport? Are there other teams? Is there a robotics team? Is there something with art? Is there musical theater? Maybe your kids' interests lie elsewhere. And what's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that. We certainly have gone the science route, even though my younger one is very sporty and likes that. We've always prioritized, he just loves science, right? Think we're okay. Nerdy science people rule the world, just saying. But look at other activities and and ask yourself, right, why is this so important to me? If you really think it's because of social and you're worried that they have social issues, and maybe they need more support, clinical support in the social arena so that they're more skilled, right? I do think sports are incredible. Is it the right level? Is it the right fit? And certainly sports where you're constantly they're a failure all the time is really not going to help your child. It's going to crush your self-esteem. And if they're that frustrated or lack the skills, they're not going to make friends anyway because the other kids are going to be irritated with them. I know it happens, right? So I hope this is an interesting conversation. I think sports are great, but it's got to be in alignment. And I want you to think about other activities. So this is part of our Behavior Decoded series in our self-regulation mastery blueprint calm brain community. It's about behaviors. It's also understanding the clinical disorders like ADD, OCD, anxiety, PANS, PANDAS, autism, mood behavior issues. It's all in there, but it's about natural solutions, but it's really about behaviors. As a trained psychologist, therapist for 3 decades, I'm not just a health coach who is a mom who decided I'm going to help people. I am a trained expert, and you get to have the advantage of that because I put in all the tools and resources that I know are efficacious and the science shows us works. So going into drroseann.com, self-regulation mastery, and learn more about how this amazing resource can help turn things around for you and your family.